speak over it. Is he serious about the fan?
Stan, you've been sitting. Stan, you've been sitting much too long, much too long. Welcome, 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 welcome to Truth, a radio program designed with you in mind, a program whose sole purpose is to empower you, our listeners, for information. Information leads to knowledge, and knowledge is, you got it, power. And as always, I want to empower you to take control of your life, those things that impact you, your family, and your community. As always, too, you want me to turn that up? As always, too, once you go to the website at www.gwen-truth.com, so you can access that all and powerful information that comes from those all important links. Amen, amen, amen. Shout out for this special day, 9/11, in celebration of all of the heroes and heroines who did such a tremendous and awesome job in response to 9/11 so many years ago, and we do not want to forget that day, because they say what you forget you tend to repeat. So we definitely do not want to see a repeat of that time period either, but we would love to see a repeat of not only the heroic acts that were brought about by the people, but the passionate displays of warmth and caring and all of that good stuff that went on during and after 9/11. So let us continue to share and display love to one another and for one another. Let us continue to kiss our spouses goodbye when we leave in the morning, to hug our children and hug each other and say wonderful things that you don't know if you'll ever get another chance to say again. So if anything, that's what 9/11 means to me, that you take no time for granted, you take no relationships for granted, and that you love one another and do that will help to improve and increase the viability of democracy, for this country is a role model, at least it should be, in terms of democracy. I'm Gwen Azama-Edwards, former city commissioner, retired city clerk, city of Daytona Beach, author, minister, St. John Missionary Baptist Church Incorporated, community volunteer. And the person that I have with me today is another community activist. They used to have another name for that, Greg, but but that's the polite way of saying community activist Greg Gimbert, citizen, a person who does not mind putting his name to things that he feels that are important, a person who does not mind standing up for what he believes in, who walks the walk as well as talks the talk. And Greg and I are going to talk about something that he's very passionate about this time around, and is promoting and really talking the great value of, and that is driving on the beach. The ability of residents and others, visitors who come to this area, to be able to walk on the beach. So, Greg, if you would share with our listeners, because I've heard the presentation, the pro and con of some of this in terms of walking on the beach, in terms of the fact that it's not really about what goes on now. It's not really driving on the beach, it's parking, parking on the beach, and if other parking were available, blah, blah, all of that stuff. So share with our listeners, those who may not be aware, maybe there are some people who just aren't aware of this great cause that you're promoting, and that you and so many others who've actually signed on to this are promoting at this time.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
And stop hiding over there.
Where you want me?
I need you so I can get you on this video. So people can hear again, those who miss us tonight.
Thanks a lot for having me. My name is Greg Gimbert. I'm here on behalf of a political action committee called Let Volusia Vote. We were formed July 27th of this year, and our purpose is to change the county charter in such a way to put a firewall of voters around what's left of our beach driving area and our beach approaches. We feel that we've lost far more than we should have, and before our county council members vote to trade away, sell away, give away any more of it, we want to let the residents weigh in on it and let them have the final deciding vote to either ratify or decline any future deals the county council proposes to take cars off what's left of our driving areas, or to remove any more of our broad beach approaches to build something over top of and privatize them.
Now, from what I gather, there is written in the county charter language to the effect that if the county decides to do anything in terms of taking any more beach area away from the public, that they would actually, or make any deals, they would actually have to provide sufficient parking, off-beach parking, to compensate for that. Do they have that ability to do that based on the charter language?
Well, they have an obligation to do that, but the definition of what would be sufficient, I think, is too vague. And their history up till now has been not up to what I think we deserve. Take the boardwalk area. When the cars came off for the Adams Mark Hotel, it was to be a community changing project. If we just give away this piece of beach here, a chunk of money there, kick some business owners off the area, gold will fall from the sky. And what we found is that we got a big parking garage. That's a very long walk, and it's turned into a desolate area, void of any economic activity that comes organically. It's all been gassed propped up by taxpayer money, and we've had some great businesses there in Ocean Walk that have made a real go of it. My family and I enjoyed going there. But I think we would enjoy patronizing those businesses without taking the driving off of the beach there, which to me equals access. I'm certain the pier would have done a lot better, and Joe's Crab Shack would be flourishing. Could their patrons drive up, park on the beach, go up and enjoy some time there, and then hop in their car and then drive home going about their business without having to take a mile-long hike back to their car.
Now, there's also, there are those, and you're one of them, who remembers the beach back when, before the vote that the citizens in Volusia County took, where the beach was turned over, rather than being owned pretty much by and managed by individual municipalities. The vote was taken whereby Volusia County controlled the entire beach. And people talk about how things used to be when there were many cars that were parking on the beach, and there was a lot more in terms of beach area too, in terms of the footprint of the beach, and there's been erosion of some of that, so there's not a lot of that beach area for people to enjoy, which makes it difficult for cars and people on the beach. What do you say in response to that?
Well, first off, you've laid a lot of things out there, but the one that kind of twisted me up was the assumption that the beach is going away, and that's permanent, and I disagree. If you go back and
I'm playing devil's advocate.
No, I want you to play devil's advocate.
Sharing what people are saying so that you can, clear the air.
Well, there's a lot of old pictures of Daytona Beach out on the web. When I was a child of the 80s, we had a very broad beach. But when you look back to the 50s, pictures in the 1950 era of the boardwalk, you will see cars backed all the way up to the boardwalk seawall, which is the exact same seawall that's there today. They were backed up to the seawall because the beach had eroded away and the tide was coming up that far. And it just gives you, when you step back and take a longer term perspective than perhaps your residence time here or even your lifetime here, and you look at nature in a more longer term view, what you'll find is that the beach is a changing environment.
Mhm.
It grows, it shrinks, it grows, it shrinks. It's not a static fixed thing. So the siren song of, oh my gosh, the beach is going away and we need to hurry up and trade away what's left of it and get some parking lots before we have nothing to trade, I don't buy into that.
Mhm.
But what our organization is trying to do is really not about what I think or about what a county council person thinks, and it certainly shouldn't be about what some out-of-state developer comes in and tries to make us think. It should be about what we all agree on. And
Mhm.
before we trade away what is some really special access for us, some unique and nearly all the world access, then maybe we should get a vote.
Mhm. Now, the county, I guess it goes up and down in terms of revenues that they're able to garner, as far as individuals who pay for the, ability to drive on the beach and park on the beach, so to speak, the permits that they gain. Do you feel that those funds, have, and I won't say been used properly, but do you feel that a really and truly a better use could be made of those funds whereby they could do a lot more in terms of that additional off-beach parking, and do more to do some of the things that I've heard people talk about. I heard presentations myself where the county promised to provide these transit types of vehicles that would take people from that parking garage and ride them to the beach with all of their belongings, you know, and all of this stuff. You remember that?
I too remember that, I believe it was called the trolley.
Yes.
And that was part of the sales pitch of taking cars off the beach there, is that they would run a constant trolley that they would take you from the parking areas down to the beach and back, and that lasted for one summer and never came back. But to go back to your question of are we utilizing the beach toll revenue in the best way, is that what you were asking?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, I think no, but not that we're not spending it in the right place, but that we're collecting it at all. We've had no shortage of proposals that have us investing hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of dollars in public-private partnerships or just straight up private giveaways to gas a development concept. And they call it an investment in the community and an investment in the future. And I think the best bang for our buck in Volusia County in general and Daytona Beach specifically is to make the investment of giving up the tolls. When we do that, when we forego the $1 million to maybe $2 million a year we net after the toll collection expense and the maintenance on the booths and so forth that goes with it, and the brochures that we hand out that could be accomplished with just signage, that we would recreate the perception and the lure of what Daytona Beach was. And to me that is that if your family took the time, whether you came from Michigan, Atlanta, or Orange City, that if you took the time to come to Daytona Beach, there was a place for you and your family, guaranteed. You didn't have to get here early in the morning to get to a parking lot before it filled up, where you could only go to the beach in that spot. When you came to our beaches in Volusia County, you got to go to the whole beach, and you got to drive right in. That small investment, I think businesses call them loss leaders, where they'll offer something for free to get people in the door. What a fantastic magnet that was, that had people driving in and flying in from all over the country just because they could come and access an entire beach, and all they had to do was show up. And I think we had a far greater return on that very small investment than we've ever had in much larger ones.
Now, liability. Cars and people, they say, don't mix.
Well, again, that's when you have vehicles flying 40 miles an hour down A1A, 35 speed limit, everybody drives 5 over. When you got cars flying back and forth at 40 miles an hour, rubbernecking, especially people that aren't from our town and they're looking around trying to find addresses and looking at signs, and let's just say the attention span between being in an unfamiliar area and your phone and whatever else people do in their cars. I think it's far more dangerous with families and children trying to negotiate A1A or even running around in a parking lot adjacent to A1A than what's on the beach. I mean, part of the lure of the beach beach is the beauty in being out in the water. The beach is a very dangerous place, not just from animals, but from the surf and the undertow, and you know, it's a contact sport. I grew up on the beach. I knew I was a reckless kid, just like all kids are. I've had 2 close calls with cars where I turned around, oh gosh, there was one there. But, you know, your car on the beach is not the small, I guess, amount of jeopardy you have to be aware of, and the responsibility you have to take for yourself and your family to go out there and enjoy that is far outweighed by the privilege of your car on the beach. And if you permit me, I'd like to expand on that a little bit, because sometimes people lose track. The old saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. I think there's a lot of people in Volusia County who perhaps have lost track of what we have here. I know several people that are a little more mature than I, and they haven't gone to the beach in a long time, just over a grudge. Once they put tolls on the beach and started closing off, we had some longtime residents here that felt like a right was taken from them, and some of them just don't go back out of spite. I'm not going to pay a toll to go on my beach, and they cut off their nose to spite their beach face. But whether you haven't gone in a long time or you've only gone one time, certainly everybody's gone sometime. And when you go to a parking lot, you just get to go to that place and mule down whatever you can with you, typically your towel and a bag. You certainly don't want to make a trip out there to dump your stuff off and then walk away from it or leave your kid alone, only to come back and find one or both are gone. So it's usually a one-trip deal from your car to the beach, and you don't have very much there, and your amenities are a towel and sand. And that's it's really public space. Kids jumping over it, no safe place for your articles. But what made Daytona special versus that parking lot and a towel in the sand everywhere else in America is that we have enough space to where you get to have your own personal space. When you drive your car down to the beach, you get to pick where you go from the whole beach. You can fight the crowds and get up where the action is, up by the boardwalk and the pier, or you could go to the north or the south where it was less congested and have a more typical, you know, backyard USA kind of beach experience with families, and not the tourists, so to speak. But you had a very large menu of beach and beach experience to choose from, and it only cost you the trip of a car and some gas. And once you got down there and got to pick your own space, to pick your own beach experience, you wound up with your own personal space, because our culture here is such that when you drive to the beach, it doesn't matter whether you're driving a Rolls Royce or a broke down boat. The space around your car is acknowledged as your personal space, and people just don't go up there and climb around in between the cars and other stuff. But again, we have enough space to where our culture is that, and it turns into your temporary oceanfront home. And you don't get that anywhere else. I mean, you've got to be a very wealthy person to have a bungalow on a beach anywhere in America. But with our bungalow here, you get to bring your towel, your beach buckets, your baby bag, your surfboard, your boogie board, your cooler, your chairs, your pop-up tent, your fishing poles, your tackle box, your buckets, your kites, whatever you want and need to give yourself a, boy, the politicians love this phrase, a world-class experience. And you get to bring it yourself, and you get to have enough space to spread your stuff out, you and your friends, and there's room for everybody to come down and meet you, even if they don't get there right at the same time, like a parking lot. And it's such a special privilege that people are so busy these days that maybe they don't take the time. But if you load your stuff and your family up in the car, and you meet your friends down there, whether you bring a little barbecue grill or whatever, you can have what people all over America look at pictures in a book or a magazine or TV and cherish and think, gosh, if I could only live like that. And we have it right here, except it's being pilfered away a quarter mile here, a quarter mile there, for another community-changing project, which so far has an unblemished history of every single one of them going bankrupt if they ever spring from the ground at all. So to tie it all together, what our position is that whether you think that there's no fair trade, even an oceanfront parking lot is not a good enough trade for driving on the beach, and I think that way. Or whether you think that maybe we should give up driving on the beach and the parking lot's okay. But there's the degrees of what we get in that exchange. Do we get a dirt postage stamp on the west side of A1A? Do we get a parking lot that only replaces half of the parking lot area on the east side of A1A? Are the neighboring properties adjoined in such a way that the public parking becomes hotel overflow parking because it's the most convenient parking to the hotel because the orientation to the entrance of the hotel versus maybe the hotel charges for parking and they could park free in the public? There's a lot of layers in this onion that goes along with giving away the beach that the people don't consider and certainly is not covered in detail in the public when these proposals are going through. Then you've got a second level echo effect where some of our beach kind of looks like a snaggletooth mouth. You can drive here, you can't drive there. You can drive here, you can't drive there. You're going on and off the beach. And what's happening is we're losing beach approaches such that even though beach driving may not technically be banned in an area, if there's no beach approaches to get down there to it, then it's functionally banned. And with the one-way traffic patterns and the other stuff we have had to make a show of bringing safety, it's just a culmination of a constantly increasing restriction of access for the locals that we believe, before it gets any worse, we should get a vote.
And the bottom line of all that you said is that irrespective of how you feel about it or anybody else feels about it, that the people should have the opportunity to vote on the issue of removing beach driving, the opportunity for beach driving, as they voted for Volusia County to take over the beach.
Yeah, we could spend a lot of time talking about the history and the circumstances that led up to the public saying enough is enough, or having scare tactics over looming problems that we thought the county was going to protect us from. But I want to spend most of our time here tonight talking about where we go from here, because that's really important. I mean, nostalgia is great, and it's good to know where you're coming from, but we're facing some real decisions here very soon, and it's about where we go from here. And I'm not a stranger to Gwen's show, nor am I to local government, and I've spent a lot of time being very disillusioned with local government and politicians and somewhat jaded.
I'm getting there.
but you know, it's because the things that was important to me were not important to enough people to make a difference. We all live in our own little bubbles. What I think is important is a function of how I view life through my lens and the people, my family, my friends, my coworkers, the people that surround me. And that's a very small lens to view the world from, and certainly different than the guy standing in front and behind of the public. So the same thing for a representative. They have their own ideas and values that they bring to the office, but they also are going to be representatives of the people they hear from. And when they know there's people out there that have needs and wants and are making investments in the community and chambers and business groups and large interests coming in from out of town, they carry a very large voice. So when a handful of people step up and go, please no, the reality is that there's few of us that are asking please no. It's very easy for a representative to say, you know what, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, but you're a minority of the input that I'm getting. And although I may agree with you, I'm not here as I wasn't elected to represent just your interests. I was elected to represent everybody's interest. And the majority of the people I'm hearing from don't agree with you, Greg. So, you know, at some point you got to step back and you got to give them a pass, and you got to throw away that jadedness and realize that the things that citizens and residents, everyday people, are only going to succeed on is when we put our petty differences, like for instance the beach, aside. When we stop worrying about how somebody else uses the beach that may be different than the way we use the beach, whether it's dogs or not, driving big trucks or little cars, whether you're surfing or jet skiing, whether you're sitting in a chair or playing volleyball. If we step back and realize that it's everybody's beach, and the only way we keep it for all of us is that we agree to share. And once we do that and can put those petty differences aside, those pet peeves about how other people are enjoying their freedoms on the beach, we have the opportunity to come together in the sufficient numbers such that our voices now overcome what were formerly the majority voices. And in this area, we vastly outnumber them, which is how we were able to hold off the desert and the Hard Rock Hotel from snapping up 2 more sections of each,
So far.
Yes, ma'am, so far.
Richard?
But to put it together, you know, this charter amendment, and I hope we will play some devil's advocate, and you'll throw some, what about this, what about that, but I think one of the most enabling and empowering things about giving the residents a vote, and let me be clear about that vote, the vote would only happen after the county council had already done all their reviews, all their staff reports, all their fact-finding missions, all their analysis, their 2 public hearings, and all the votes necessary such that the beach would be gone under the system we have today. Only then would the people come in and get a vote. So we wouldn't be voting every time somebody wanted to take cars off the beach. We'd only be voting every time the county council went through with it. So it's not really a new jeopardy. Some of the things I've heard from government-focused people is, oh, the public, they don't know what the heck, they can be tricked to vote into anything. You spend $1 million in media, they'll vote for anything, they don't know. Well, I give the public a lot more credit than that. They're smarter than people think. Folks in government get jaded because the rest of the public doesn't think what's important is the same thing as an activist thinks is important, but it doesn't mean the public's stupid, they're not. They just have different values. But so to come full circle, once this amendment's in place, I believe it will have 2 very important effects at the county council level, long before it gets to us for a vote. Number 1, it will strengthen the hand of those elected representatives who want to negotiate in our best interest. And what I mean by that is somebody who says, well, you know what, I may not want cars off the beach, but I was elected here to make decisions and to investigate opportunities, and you know what? I'm going to try to squeeze as many concessions out of this private entity that wants to come take our beach driving away for so peace. I'm going to squeeze them for everything I can. And I can use this vote to say, you know what, I'd love to give you what you want, but the people aren't going to go for it. You got to give me, I can't put that to the people. You got to give me more. You got to give me something that have a chance of passing. You're really going to strengthen the hand of somebody like this, for somebody who wants to really negotiate our best interest. But it has another effect, just as important. It provides needed oversight for those elected officials who would trade away our birthright for some beads and whiskey. It's a needed change.
And you're saying that the language for that amendment, that charter amendment for Volusia County's charter, has been almost finalized pretty much, and the people should see it be made available to them anytime soon?
Yes, it's there is some new news that you will not have seen on any website or any Facebook page or group or what have you. It has been a very long, tedious process of crafting a charter amendment, but we have it down to a couple of very similar options that have all been equally blessed by our legal representation, that they know that they can defend in court emerge successful. And we have some ironclad charter amendment petitions that will get the job done. And it's been a heck of a wait, because we started off with, almost 2 months ago, a very simple version of this request, one that mimicked the existing charter language. And for anybody who's ever seen our Volusia County charter, it's written in very brief, very plain English, in short statements. And that's unusual in government. Usually government is very verbose with a lot of terminology you don't understand. And the thing about legislation is they usually have definitions that come along with it. So they may say the county color is blue, but you look at the definitions, and for the purposes of the statute, blue is actually stop sign red. There's no such trickery in our charter. However, when we tried to come forward with also a very simple wording of this change, what we ran into was a brick wall of the county attorney refusing to work with us. So we've spent these last several weeks trying to find that delicate balance between keeping the wording as simple and concise as possible, but also writing it in such a way that it was ironclad. There was no vagueness or means of misunderstanding what the intentions were. The scope and intent of this thing is very important to get right, and we believe we have. Next week, you will see a lot of opportunities coming regarding this charter amendment, ways to support, ways to participate, ways to help. Next week's going to be a very big week for Volusia County.
Now, for those who would like to, they're already aware somewhat and they would like to participate, how best can they get in touch with you or the group?
Well, we have many portals of which you can come and get to know us, read about what we want to accomplish. The first one is a website, a .com address. It's letvolusiavote.com.
Mm-hmm.
That has been the least used portal in getting the word out for this. We've only had that up a short time. We have all of $20 in it. Where this thing really took off was on social media. And the platform that everybody knows is Facebook. Whether you got an account or not, certainly everyone's heard of it. I resisted it for a long time until I got in there via necessity just to participate in an off-road group. But it's been fabulous. When the Desert End proposal came out, and people were up in arms, and there were a lot of mad people all over the county, but they were mad in their own little neighborhoods and their own little peer groups. But sort of like every different groups of people stumbling into the neighborhood saloon and finding out, hey, everybody's interested in the same thing. There is a Facebook group called Free Daytona Beach. That's free space Daytona space beach. And that Facebook group started out with, a couple hundred members. We're now up over 5,000 in 2 months. It's just taken off vertically from one friend telling another friend to adding friends to the group, and they stumble in and what's going on here at Free Daytona Beach? What is this, some Craigslist swap thing? Oh my God, they're giving away the beach, and it's just gone crazy. And it's been a blessing. It really has. Social media has leveled the playing field to where in the past where folks who were trying to make changes perhaps in opposition to folks who had influence either due to their standing in the community or their standing at the bank, it's been an equalizer. And from that group of Free Daytona Beach neighbors came the call to, well, we can't let this go on anymore. We got to stop this. We got to fix this. What do we do about this? And there was a wonderful discussion, some meetings, a public rally, and what came from all of that angst and that energy was the only way to fix this permanently was to put the beach in a place beyond where politicians could reach it and change it on their own. And that's only through a charter amendment. So that spawned a creation of a political action committee, which is a state mandated fictitious entity, sort of like a corporation. And it's a mechanism where you can bring money in and spend money with the express purpose of influencing or accomplishing a political outcome, whether it's getting somebody elected or getting an issue advanced or an issue stopped. So we formed a political action committee called Let Volusia Vote. So that is the last place of 3 that you can find us, get involved with us, stay up to date on the web, and that is a Facebook page that you like. Let Volusia Vote. And if you have a Facebook account, I encourage you, that should be the first place you go. Let Volusia Vote. Find that page and click like. And when you do that, once a day or less, you will get one of your notifications, just like your friend posted baby pictures or somebody uploaded a video. You'll get a notification that Let Volusia Vote with a status update. And we do campaign updates of what's going on with the beach, what's going on with our goals, and where we're at in the process. So that the best way to stay up to date, because you get it immediately. The first place we report any new news is on the Let Volusia Vote page. Now, once you like that page, subscribe to it, if you will. If you want to participate and kind of jump in the pool with all your fellow supporters, go over to that Free Daytona Beach group and click join. That's sort of like a forum, and that is a place where everybody participates equally. We started calling it our community, our school, public square, but it's really like the town saloon. You're able to see anybody in there. We have some very dignified and some very professional people. We have some government people. We also have some folks that are downright angry and aren't afraid to tell you about it. We have folks that are all backgrounds, all ages, all colors. Some are local, some are new transplants, Democrats, Republicans, anarchists, no party affiliation. When you come to the Free Daytona Beach page, you check issues at the door. That is a support group. We are there, the people there are there for one thing only, and that is to put their pet peeves about how other people use the beach and put their all other issues aside when they come there, and to come together to support protecting our beach driving to the point that we at least get ourselves and our neighbors a vote. So I encourage everyone, whether you're pro beach driving or not, or you haven't made up your mind, subscribe to the Let Volusia Vote page, join the Free Daytona group, and get to know us. If you find that you're inclined to support us and you want to help, I don't know how y'all use your Facebook account, but I've got a group of Facebook friends, and then I've got email contacts that is a whole nother magnitude bigger. If somebody might have 300 Facebook friends and have 3,000 email contacts. And if you want to help spread the word, not only share the Free Day or the Let Volusia Vote page, but you can leverage it through your email contacts, the letvolusiavote.com webpage. It's nothing worse than having some really great news and not be able to tell somebody. And you don't let everybody into your life, into your Facebook friend group, so to speak. So you may want to tell everybody about, hey, let's get ourselves a vote, but you can only tell your Facebook friends. What about everybody else you know? That's where you use that letvolusiavote.com webpage. You open up your email, create a new email. Hey everybody, if you're interested, we're getting ready to lose some more beach driving. There's some folks who want to put a stop to it, or at least make sure we get a vote before we lose any more. If this interests you, check out www.letvolusiavote.com, and then send that email to everybody in your email contact list. And that way you don't have to let the whole world into your Facebook page, but you get to help promote what I hope you'll find is a very needed community change. Help us spread the word. We have no budget for this. We're your neighbors. This is grassroots. There's no development project, no hard rock, no financial public-private partnership looking to cash in on this. We don't have catered lunches. We're your neighbors just trying to get it done. We need your help.
Let me ask a question just for our listeners' benefit. Did you find out about the Desert Inn and what was promised to them via the newspaper, print media? So there were no efforts by the county to really be transparent in terms of what they were about to do or considering, unless you were already in the pipeline of getting their agenda or whatever else. So your representatives serving on the county council never gave a heads up to anybody.
I don't remember seeing an email blast or a Facebook post from any of the, and I don't mean it didn't happen, but I don't remember seeing them saying, hey, big changes are coming, let's talk about this before this train gets too far out the station.
Right.
But you know what, they don't owe us that. That may sound disappointing, and your listeners may be going, sons of guns. But that's the way the rules are, folks. They're required to changes like this, just like a law being passed, has to have 2 public hearings. That means it gets a majority of the council vote in one meeting. 2 weeks later, 2 months later, whenever they bring it back for its second reading, it passes again. It's a done deal. And that's the nature of our representative government. And unfortunately, the sad thing is that months, sometimes years of planning and meetings and behind the scenes real hard work and lobbying and tours and dog and pony shows go on to get the consensus on a city or county council to bite off on trying a new idea. And once management and the advocate for their change feels like they've got enough votes to get it done, that's when it goes on the agenda and the rubber meets the road and it passes or done. And that's usually the genesis of the residents' angst, because the first time they hear about it is this major change is on the agenda, and holy cow, where did that come from? Well, it came the same way everything else comes. It comes up on the agenda. So if you're not watching all the time, you often get caught flat-footed, where you read about it in the paper and the meeting's tomorrow. So by the time you get to do something about it, half your time's already expired. So you're behind the ball, and that's really why this charter amendment to the county charter is so important, because you can't watch everything. That's why we elect these people, is to make the day-to-day decisions, the must-do things of government, to keep the water running, the police there, the criminals locked up in jail, the fires put out, everything from code enforcement to after school care and recreation. They're there to do these things for us. They take that job and are compensated for acting in our best interest. But every once in a while, some stuff comes along that a few of us think might be a little bit of a stinker. And losing our beach drive and losing our temporary oceanfront home that we all have the access to, maybe that's one that we shouldn't be caught flat-footed on. And we don't have time to marshal up enough opposition to stop it. Maybe that's one of the very few things that should rise beyond the level of a few elected opinions and go to the people. Now, certainly a change to beach policy wouldn't be something that rose beyond the level of politicians in nearly any other beach town, but we're not any other beach town. With our beach driving and our unique access, not just beach access, but access to the whole beach, we've got a little different animal here. And because of the state statutes are such that driving on the beach in Florida is illegal. The only reason we still have it in Volusia County is because when they made beach driving illegal in the mid-'80s, they created what's commonly referred to as a grandfather clause, and the statute said that any entity, city or county, that has a unified beach code will be able to keep its beach driving until such time as a 3/5 majority of the local governing authority, city council, county council, votes by a 3/5 majority to remove beach driving either in whole or in part. So you're grandfathered in, but once you take that beach driving off, the net effect is sort of like checkers. You're taking your finger off; it's gone. So taking beach driving off, this very rare, unique asset we have, is kind of worse than even a bond. A bond is one of the few things we as the public already get to vote on that's been set outside of something that politicians can do on their own because of the very dramatic and the very long-reaching effects of taking out a bond. When a city or a county takes out a bond that's backed up by property taxes, they are taking out a 30-year mortgage or longer that's backed up by taxes you will pay on your home when you lose your home. And I believe to dumb it down and say it plain, however you want to couch it, the reason that the public gets to vote on it is because when they take out a bond backed by your property taxes, they are obligating you to a working lifetime of an additional level of tax slavery. You will pay those taxes or you lose your home. You have no choice in the matter. So before you get obligated to what 30 years is essentially a man's or woman's working lifetime, before they obligate you to a working lifetime of a debt that you did not ask them to take out, you get a vote. And I think most people would agree that that level of burden being placed on you rises beyond the level of a few elected opinions. But even with a bad bond decision, you can eventually buy your way out of it. You can pay off the loan, you can have some extra taxes, or you can do without some community services, but one way or another you can dig yourself out of that hole. Not so with beach driving. When they take the cars off the beach, that's a bad decision you can't buy back with any amount of tax money over any amount of time. It's gone. So for our community, we believe that that decision rises beyond the level of a few elected opinions, not just like a bond, but a whole magnitude more than a bond.
Let me say, you listen to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. I'm a few minutes later than I should, but I didn't want to stop the train of thought that Greg was sharing with us. But this is, again, Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest is Greg Gimbert, who is a community activist, and we're talking about beach driving and the right, your right, to ensure that that privilege of riding on the beach remains as a right, not just a privilege, but a right that you have, and that you be given the opportunity to vote on a continuation of your right to drive on the beach, and it not be something that can be frivolously or through whatever other means given away to developers and the like, and that you should have the opportunity of weighing in on that. So that's our discussion tonight. And Greg, you shared some very, very interesting information just in the last few minutes of something that I don't think the listeners were aware of, and I was not that aware of that either. More and more, and I in listening to the attorney that's representing the other developer that's a little further south.
Hard Rock?
Hard Rock
Mr. Storch.
Yes. Yes, Attorney Stewart. It doesn't sound like, they've actually given up on getting that area made into non-driving.
Well, that would be quite a shocker to the citizens of Daytona Beach and the residents of that abutting community, because when Bayshore Capital, I struggle to call it a Hard Rock. It's Bayshore Capital. This is not the Seminole Tribe and the Hard Rock Incorporated planning a corporate hotel or doing a corporate store. What's proposed there is a development by a company, I believe it's called Bayshore Capital, and what they would be doing is getting a franchise for the Hard Rock Hotel. They're leasing the name to hang on their project. But a hotel or a condo or development by any other name is still just another hotel or condo on the beach. And when the Bayshore came to town.
Oh, you know, I needed to say WLE 1380 AM on your radio down in Ormond Beach, Florida. Okay, go ahead.
when Bayshore came to town, one of the things they got was one of our beach approaches. Anyone who's driven down a coastal community, the really special thing about Flagler Beach is that when you drive down A1A, there's nothing built on the ocean. As you drive down A1A, you get to see the ocean, the scenic vista, you get to experience of really being there and being within it, even if you're in your car. But most coastal communities, in Daytona Beach for sure, as you drive down A1A, it's a wall of buildings, and the only peak you get at the beach is these not so small peepholes of the beach approaches as you drive by. The public actually gets a glimpse at what is rightfully theirs here in our area now. And Bayshore got one of those. They'll be building their project over top of what was our public access. And when they came, the fear was that, oh Lord, the Hard Rock is going to want to take these driving off. They're big, they're powerful, they can take our beach. And as I understood it, it was, no, y'all don't worry about that. We're fine with these driving. Look at our pictures, look at our slideshows. We have cars on the beach in front of our artist renderings. We're cool with driving on the beach. And then another property came along and wanted cars off of their beach. And then Bayshore/Hard Rock changed their tune. It seems to me that if a company came to invest in our community and be a good neighbor and to come into our melting pot of Daytona Beach and become one of us, they came because we had the cars on the beach. And if somebody came along and wanted to take cars off, I would hope that they would be one of the first ones to say, oh no, you don't. You're not getting cars off your beach. This is what we're about. But they didn't do that. They didn't say, oh no, you don't. They said, I want mine too.
Yeah,
and
competitive edge.
That was a
said.
big 180. And folks, what they were about to do with the Desert Inn, and apparently some could come to the conclusion that Hard Rock was perhaps waiting in the wings to do the same thing, who knows? But we almost made a tragic mistake and could have lost all of our beach driving, and this is not alarmist. Let me explain to you how that could work. We have a history of taking cars off the beach in fear of a federal lawsuit. We have a history of taking cars off the beach for environmental reasons. We have a history of taking cars off the beach for safety. What we don't have a history of is taking cars off the beach to economically advantage one single property owner against all others. And that's what we were about to do. Everybody was wrapped around the axle that we were just going to get a little postage stamp dirt lot on the west side of A1A, and it was such a poor trade of taking cars off the beach. But that was not the true egregiousness of the act. It was not the true community jeopardy of the act. The true jeopardy we were in is the precedent we would set of giving one oceanfront property owner such a competitive advantage against all other oceanfront property owners of having a car-free beach for their guests and their personal enjoyment, to the exclusion of the people who belong to the beach, and to set such a low threshold for it. What government does for one, it must do for everyone. There's a fairness concept that's expected, that's implied, and that's enforced through the judiciary when it comes to a lawsuit, that we are entitled to equal protection under the law, and that government or even individuals can't go in and try to purposely crash somebody's business. It's called tortious business interference lawsuit. You can't do that. You can't prop up somebody then you can't try to crush one person as a government entity. And when you do that, when you set the precedent, then everyone else has some would say the legal right, some would say the expectation at the very least, well, if you did it for them, you can do it for me. And I would hope your listeners are already seeing this nightmare in their mind of lawyers lining up at the county courthouse, filing suit to get the same thing. Well, if you gave X number of square foot of parking lot for X number of linear feet for traffic-free beach, well, I'm gonna give you X number of foot of west side parking lot. Well, I will too. Well, now you got 20 oceanfront homeowners gathering their funds together, and they're gonna collectively buy a lot and get cars on our beach, and before you know it, now you've got the politicians throwing their hands up going, oh gosh, what have we done? Well, what it's done, we can't stop it now. We can try to fight all these lawsuits and bankrupt ourselves, but they'll win anyway. We'll eventually have to give them, take the cars off the beach. Oh shucks, let's go ahead and do it. And that really is at the core. Whether you're for beach, whether you think you should never take cars off the beach, or you just think that we're eventually gonna have to, but we need to get a better deal for taking cars off the beach. What we were about to be dealt was a very poor deal and an awful precedent setter that endangered all of our driving on the beach. And that's really the most important reason why we need to change the charter to give the citizens a vote, so we can make sure that if we're gonna lose our beach in part or in whole, that it's done in such a way that if it's gonna be done to us, it's gonna be done by us. And with it in the county charter, we take away the expectation of what we do for one, we have to do for another. The threshold is that the community has to buy into it. That the charter, our supreme law of our county, says that would give us the flexibility such that in some decades we may be willing to trade off a little piece of beach if it didn't interfere with the beach driving areas in exchange for some amenities. Or in other times we may say, you know what, we need to manage the beach for the people who already live here, and how much you make in your average daily room rate is your problem, not ours. This beach exists for the residents, we're gonna manage it for the residents, and your hotel can fall in the ocean. You know, there's all kinds of opinions out there, but what the vote gives us is it takes away the undue influence of a few loud voices and brings everybody to an equal footing to where we elevate this to the true community affecting decision that it really is. I know I went off on a tangent. You want to talk about hard rock, but it's important to see it all in context.
Yes,
to really
absolutely,
understand it.
absolutely. Now, one question that has been raised is this: does that mean once this comes forward, people vote on it, that they would have to vote? That's after the county council has taken all of their actions and they've approved, let's say, the use of such beach frontage, taking the cars off for a particular development, would people have to vote then on every development opportunity that gets to that point? Or just certain level?
That's an interesting question. No. We would certainly not be voting on every development proposal. I've heard that in the community, and I appreciate you playing devil's advocate, but that's patently absurd. Okay. Development proposals happen on the west side of the seawall. Okay. That's city decisions. In some places, in the unincorporated Volusia, that might be a county decision, but by and large, those are city decisions. What we would be voting on is what happens on the east side of the seawall, on our public land, on our public park, and our public commons. Whether somebody gets a height limit variance, a density variance, gets to get around a code, our community standards, they get a planned urban development where they get to break all the rules, whether they get tax abatement or straight up millions of dollars in CRA giveaway money to juice their development, we don't vote on that stuff. The only thing we vote on is if one of the components of this thing involved the county council taking action by their vote to take cars off the beach. Then we vote on that. And that is a policy issue in a park area that is our public commons. This is not injecting the voters and infringing on the rights of a private property owner. The private property owners and their property on the west side of the seawall, they can build whatever they want or whatever the cities will let them get away with. But if their grand plans include taking part of our public the second shoe to drop is, well, what if we start having the county council want to give away sections of beach? What if Daytona or Volusia County comes alive and truckloads of money and developers start rolling in here? Oh my gosh, we don't want to have a vote every time somebody gives us a wonderful proposal that's worth taking cars off the beach. Well, what kind of proposal would that be? To me, there's no such thing. To others, that could happen very easily. But to me, if we have a county council that's giving away sections of beach driving every other meeting, and my God, you better hope you have a vote.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly why we need a vote, because as Gwen pointed out earlier, things happen in government. By the time they make a meeting agenda or happen in the paper, they're essentially a done deal.
Yes.
So in what's being cast as a nightmare scenario of voting all the time, that would be a nightmare scenario where they're giving away your beach all the time, and you better absolutely make sure you have a vote, or you will lose your beach.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I think I've played devil's advocate and thrown out the things that they pretty much saying.
Well, there's another one of the cost of these elections. You'll hear it soon. Well, that's just too big a burden to put on a developer. We can't make them wait 2 years every time we have a general election. Well, first off, they don't. The chances are to be in 2 years are pretty small. You have an election every 2 years, but maybe the proposal comes up with 6 months left, 9 months left, 12 months left. We've all seen these development proposals that takes years to get out of the ground, or essentially never do.
And most of them take years.
Yeah, so 2 years is no time in a development proposal. But you know what? If something had to happen so fast, and the politicians thought that it was so important that this get decided on, maybe the developer wanted to bankroll a special election to try their luck. They could have just that, a special
and
election.
And a ballot issue can be handled through the mail.
Okay. Our amendment does not tie the politicians' hands in any way whatsoever. We don't say they can never take cars off the beach, although that's what a lot of us would have liked, is to just make a charter amendment that said you could never take cars off the beach ever. It's grandfathered in, it's cemented, and no. And we'd have to have a vote to change the charter to take that out. We don't want to do that, because those are our views. We don't know if that's the whole county's views. And this charter amendment's about gauging the pulse and the desires of the whole county. Mm-hmm. So the county council can propose any grand compromise or any cockamamie scheme or anything in between. They can propose to put it on the ballot at the next general election. They can propose to waste our money and run a special election instead of waiting for the next general election. They have all the power to do it their way at all times. The only thing our amendment does is say that if you're going to do it, however you do it, you get a vote. And the cost of adding just one more item to an election that's already happening is relatively insignificant.
Yeah.
If you're going to have the election anyway for the governor, for the president, every 2 years we have an election for something, and putting two more bubbles, a sentence and 2 more bubbles, yes or no, piece of paper that's already there, but I don't see a significant cost increase, especially considering what we have to lose without those 2 little bubbles on paper.
Awesome. Thank you. This has been enlightening. It's been enlightening for me, and I'm sure to our listeners, and we will get this interview up on YouTube and send you a link as well, Greg. Anything that we've not missed that you'd like the listeners to be aware of before we sign off?
Yeah, a couple things. This is your neighbors doing this. We're the equivalent of a lemonade stand or a bake sale. We do not have an angel investor. We are just your neighbors. So if you're sitting out there listening going, oh no, they're not going to take my beach. Well, if you think this is going to happen, but it's one guy on the radio, it's not. Just like what happened after 9/11, and you had a real tragedy, and the country came together, for a good time there. We moved slower. We set our values. We didn't see Democrat or Republican or black or white or brown. We were just Americans. Well, we had a near tragedy here, and it's time for us to be neighbors. There's going to be people who are going to try to make this partisan. Oh, that's the Democrats trying to do it. Oh, it's the Republicans trying to do it. Oh, they're trying to circumvent our form of government and make it about a constitutional thing. The Constitution has 4 legs. It's a chair, not a 3-legged stool. We have the representative, the executive, or the legislative, the executive, the judicial, and we have the 4th leg, the people. And they're amendable document, whether it's federal constitution, state constitution, or county charter. That's the document that the power flows from. And there's nothing more American and nothing more constitutional than Americans getting together and amending that document, delegating how much power we've loaned to these representatives. So if you want to step up and do your civic duty to protect your own beach and do better, because nobody's going to do it for you, you need to put your personal pet peeves aside about who's a Democrat, who's a Republican, somebody you didn't like. Heck, you may not like me, I might not like you, but we better like each other for a little while to get this done. So find us on Facebook at Let Volusia Vote, and if you don't have a Facebook account, go get one. And in the meantime, check us out on the internet at letvolusiavote.com. Share it with your email contacts. Volunteer to help us collect petitions on Election Day. Very soon you will see a link on Let Volusia Vote and letvolusiavote.com where you can click on a PDF file, download a charter amendment petition, make copies on your own printer, fill it out, sign it, get all your neighbors and friends to do it, fold it up in an envelope and send it to the P.O. box that you'll see on our website or our Facebook page. And do us a favor, put a check in there too. These petitions and advertising and legal fees and the signature validation fees, that stuff isn't free. I don't, whether it's $200 or $20, write us a check. We need some help. Everybody can do something. You can volunteer to collect petitions on Election Day or early voting, or you can print off a bunch at home with your own paper and collect them around your neighborhood, your veterans group, your neighborhood group, or just your friends. Get to work, folks. This has got to happen quick. Whether you collect petitions, whether you print petitions, whether you stroke a little check to help, or whether you do all of it, get off the couch and get involved if you want to save the opportunity that we all have, that temporary oceanfront home. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Now, how many petitions do you need?
We need 5.
Ballparks.
Gosh, a lot. We're going to need to collect about 20,000 petitions, and they need to be collected in proportion to the registered voters of each county council district. So if you live in District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever your county council district, you're going to need about 3,500 petitions from each of those county council districts. We need a lot. But you know what? Your job out there, each of you, is to get 100. You can do it. You can get 6 in your own house between yourself, your grandma, your kids, your son, your best friend. You can get 20 when you spread out to your neighbors.
And
you can get 40 when you spread out the work.
Registered voters.
Yes, they must be registered voters in the county of Volusia. And when you see the charter amendment petition, it'll say name. Write it just as it is on your voter registration card, not your nickname. If your name's Gregory, don't put Greg. You can either put your voter registration number or your date of birth. It's either or. So if you don't have your voter registration card, that's okay. Everybody knows their birthday. Put your date of birth down.
And sign it the way you've signed for voter registration.
Oh, that's the worst. Everybody's if you registered to vote 20 years ago, your signature may have changed. Do your best you can to sign it the way you did back when you registered to vote. But you know what? Do the best you can. Do something. You've got to come together and help yourself. We can't do it for you. We've created the legal framework, the authentic structure, and a document that will pass legal muster. And there's nothing in it for anybody else that's not in it for everybody, which is to put a firewall of voters around what's left of our beach driving area. We have 47 miles of beach. We only have 17 miles of driving left. If somebody doesn't want to go to a dry beach, we have plenty of beaches you can go to in Volusia County without cars. But before we give away one more inch of what's left, let's let Volusia go.
And I think this is one of those things too, Greg, where people say you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for future generations as well, right?
Well, a whole lot of people have worked a long time to give us a right to vote, a right to change our charters, the rights that we as Americans hold dear, and they pass down not only those national, state, and local rights, but they pass down this beach. And it's up to us to protect it, to carry it forward to our kids, the neighbors' kids, and everybody's grandkids. People before us did it for us. It's time that we do it for ourselves and those that come after. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, thank you to all of our listeners. Again, you've been listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest, Greg Gimbert, community activist, and he's out there fighting for you and all of Volusia County in helping to protect and maintain the beach driving that is allowed currently on our beach, and saying that, if you want to keep it or not, that you should be the one to decide as a Volusia County resident, as a Volusia County voter. So do contact Greg. Again, that website is.
LetValushaVote.com or Let Valusha Vote on Facebook.
All right. Listen, remember to join us every Thursday starting at 6:15 or 6:20 as we discuss issues to empower and to inform you, our listeners. Be sure to go to the website, www.gwen-duke.com, where this video will be up on YouTube within the next 2 days. So if you didn't get all the information tonight, you can get it then. Again, this is Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards, my guest, Greg Gimbert. And Greg would say, like you, like me, he's still standing and he wants you guys to stand with him as well. Be blessed and have a great week. And again, shout out to all of our heroes and heroines for 9/11. God bless and have a great weekend.
With your host, Gwen Azama-Edwards, exclusively every Thursday night on WELE.